Okay, cool. So today's call, super excited about it. If you want to turn your cameras on, that would be great. So I'm not staring at a couple of black screens. If you're at work, if you are doing whatever, totally understand. But if you can turn your cameras on, that would be great. So today what we're going to be talking about is how can we optimize lifting heavier? We're going to be talking about syncing your periods. We're going to be talking about deloads. Deloads might be something that you haven't learned about yet, but we're going to learn about it today. And I'm going to be giving my take on how deloads have changed for me. So even in the past when I've taught deloads, I've mentioned the way that I deload, and then I'm like, okay, this is usually how you can deload if you would like to. So today I want to talk about how that's changed for me. So before we get started, drop in the chat. What is a win that you've had over the past 7 days? Drop it in the chat. Drop it in chat. Any win? Did you hit a PR? Did you crush your meal prep? Did you, I don't know, anything in the gym, in nutrition, personal life, professional life, anything is always a win. Our win is we had a second annual Project Fit Chick meetup. So I was super hyped about that. Yeah, Maria pushing Christine to lift stronger in her bench press during the meetup. I love that. You guys were the perfect partners. I think everybody was like paired up so perfectly, which was awesome. I also liked how I was also in that partner group. So if I'm grabbing the 45s, I need both of you to go up. Drop your wins in the chat. Let's get a couple more. I spent the day at the spa on Sunday, very relaxing and much needed. Oh, girl, I need that in my life, but I'm so happy that you did that. Love that. Consistency with my workouts and meals, amazing. Yes. Love that, love that. Let's get another one in there and then we will get started. Hit 50s on my dumbbell row for 10 at the meetup. Yes. If you could get 50s, you could get 55s. I love that about the meetup because I'm like, all of a sudden, everybody's stronger. But it's just like the hype. All right, cool. We're going to get started. If you want to drop your wins, go ahead and drop them. And then I'm going to pull up today's lesson. Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. If you have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat as we go. Or honestly, I'll just open up for some Q&As after. So what we are looking at today, we are talking about lifting heavier, deloads, and periods. If you are new to the program, or if you are here as a guest, deloads might be something that you have probably never heard me talk about because honestly, it's not something that we do from the very beginning, but it's something that you eventually will do. And you're kind of doing on your own right now, unintentionally. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So I'm just going to dive right into it today. So there is a massive difference versus training, well, between training and working out. Massive difference. Training is performed for purpose of achieving a long-term goal. So do you want a body transformation? Are you trying to hit new strength goals? Are you trying to get that 135 squat or that 200-pound deadlift or your first pull-up or lose X amount of weight, build X amount of muscle? Training is programmed. It is to achieve a long-term goal. Working out is just exercise for the sake of today's benefits and your general health, which is also good. But for the most part, all of us, yes, we work out for a general health, but we also work out for a specific goal. So we train, we go in the gym with purpose, right? Working out is where like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna go to the gym today. I'm just gonna put these exercises together. I'm just gonna go to yoga, or I know sometimes you guys do like Pilates, or you'll jump into this class or that class. It's more so for the benefits of that day. In order to get the best results, we need to train to max intensity and with intentional purpose. So when it comes to training to max intensity, I also want to mention that this is a learning process. And I bet everybody on this call that has been with me for more than a couple of months will realize like it takes time to learn how much you should lift. And no one can really just like tell you how much you should lift. You have to learn that based on your how good you are at X movements or upper body movements or your shoulder press or whichever movement, right? So let's get started. I'm just gonna bang out. I think there's 4 different things that we're gonna talk about today. Wanting to start with number 1. All right, so over the course of 4 weeks, oops, Sadia's coming in. All right, so over the course of 4 weeks, in our 4-week blocks, we do 1, we have a baseline week. All right, this is most important for anybody that is, I would say, within like the first 6 months of your program. You have a baseline week. This is got new workouts. I've never done this exercise before, and you're just trying to figure out how much you should be lifting, right? Week number 2, now you already have that baseline. You're like, okay, for the row last week, I did 20 pounds. I realized that was too light because then I ended up doing 30 pounds. So this week I'm going to start at 30. Or last week I did 30 pounds and this week that was a perfect weight. That's where I'm going to start. Week 2 is about, can I increase the weight or improve the form with my current weight? So you already walk in, you have your plan, we have more intention. Week 3, same exact thing. And then there is a week 4, which is pushing for block PRs. We love these. This is when you guys always message in the chat, hey, today I just said fuck it. And I just went for the 75-pound hip thrust and I ended up getting it. Like I hit a PR today and I absolutely love those. Another thing with this is learning from previous blocks. Something that I've mentioned before is if you see that week 1, you're doing like 20-pound lunges, and then week 4, you're doing like 35-pound lunges, that's a pretty drastic jump. Sometimes we're like, yeah, Nicole, like I increased 15 pounds this block. Okay, yes, amazing. But I actually think you started too light from the beginning. And I mentioned lunges because that was me. I literally was like 30 pounds and then I did 35 pounds. And then week 4, I was hyped and I was like, fuck it, let's just see how much I can lift. And I ended up doing like 45 pounds. That's a 15-pound jump over the course of 4 weeks. I knew for the next time that I got lunges, I have to start way heavier. So now my baseline for lunges, I'm starting at like 40s. But it was only because in past blocks, I realized I was always going up in weight so drastically that from the beginning, I have to start much heavier. Right now, deloads. For a lot of us, and even for myself at times, week 1 can also be your deload week. Right? We're going to talk about that now. Now, there's 2 ways that you deload. One is unintentionally. Everyone who starts a program, if you start this program or literally any block, it's a new block, it's new exercises, you're not sure how much to lift, you're just kind of getting in the groove, you unintentionally deload. Why? Because you pick up that 20-pound, you do some reps, and you're like, oh, that was actually too light. Let me go heavier. And the intensity in figuring out your baseline just isn't that high simply because you're just not sure how much you should be lifting. It's new lifts. You haven't done these in a while. All right. And now we eventually will get to intentional deloads. There are a lot of girls on this chat. If I ask you, hey, how much can you row for 8 reps? You'll probably be really like spot on to how much you can row for 8 reps, right? But there's also some girls that are like, ooh, I'm actually not sure. How much should I pick up? Because I'm still trying to figure that out. Or if it's a new exercise, like a step up, right? It's a step up, you haven't done that before, or it's your first time on the hack squat. Some of you will know 100%, like this is how much I should be lifting. Some of you don't. But eventually, we do get to that point where we do know our lifts for all our exercises. So when it comes to intentional deloads, right, how does this work? Intentional deloads basically means that we want to push heavy for 3 weeks out of the block. So let's say a month, right? 3 weeks out of your training block, you want to push pretty heavy. You're going heavier, you're going for PRs. 3 weeks are heavy. 1 week is about 70%. Now, there's technically 2 ways that we can deload. Way number 1 is to decrease sets. So let's say you have 4 sets. On your deload week, you're just going to do 3 sets for every exercise. Or if it is 3 sets, you're doing 2 sets. So you're just decreasing a set. I personally don't love this one. I don't know if it's like my ADD that I just have to keep moving and like I just can't, I just want to follow what's on my program. I personally don't like taking off one set, but I know some people do. My favorite way to deload is just decreasing intensity. So on your deload week, you are going in and you're working about 70 to 80% of your max. This is dependent on the exercise because if it's a step up, you probably can't do much weight anyways, and you're just like getting your form. So we're talking the lunges, the split squats, the bench press, the squat, the deadlift, the leg extensions, the hamstrings, like the exercise that you're really like pushing yourself. This deload week, you're only pushing yourself to about 70 to 80% of your max. I would be lying if I said I pulled out my calculator to actually figure out what's my 70 to 80% max. But I just know, hey, usually for 8 reps, I'm going 60 pounds. This week, I'm going to go 45, right? So in my head, I'm just bringing those down, right? We are aiming in this week for perfect form and power, right? So we are working on how can I get out of the squat, out of the hole of the squat much quicker? How can I move in a better fluid motion, right? And if you are doing a deload on week 1, you are setting a baseline for future sets. All right, again, this is for more experienced lifters. Another way that we deload, this is past phase 1. So phase 1 of Project Fit Chick, right? You have your 6-month block. We're really working on developing the foundations. When you get into phase 2, a lot of girls will notice they'll have like part 1 and it's 3 months long. And then you have part 2, and then it's another 3 months long. In between those 3 to 4 months, we do what are called health blocks. Some of you love it. I think Cindy, actually, you messaged me and you're like, I love my last block. And I looked at it and it was like a health block, like eccentrics. And I was like, that's amazing. I always hate those because I don't know, they feel so much harder. But when we do get to that point where we're not just working in 3 to 4 week blocks, we're working in 3 to 4 month blocks, we not only have deload weeks, but we have deload months. Not necessarily deloading, but we're decreasing the intensity. We're decreasing the tempo of the reps. The reason that we do this is because now we're paying more attention to your joints, right? How are we improving on your form? How are we focusing on those smaller muscles, right? So this is just more like future pacing. Now, another way that you can deload, you see this little chart on the right. This is your hormones over the course of your cycle. Your period, they crash, your follicular phase, they start rising, your ovulation, you are feeling on top of the world, and then progesterone kicks in, and that's where we're like, I don't want to really do anything, right? So another option is understanding when do you perform your best versus needing to pull back. So are you somebody that likes to deload every first week of the block? Right? That's just easy for you to imagine in your calendar. The first week of the block, I'm going to pull back. Or are you someone that is going to deload right before your period? I mentioned at the beginning of this call that deloads have actually changed for me. Before, I always deloaded the very first week of my block, but after I got off of birth control, my hormones have really like changed, and now I get a lot more period symptoms. So as my body is trying to balance out, I deload now during my luteal phase, right? So again, understand your body, but I'm going to play this again because if you don't have the Stardust app, by the way, this is the Stardust app, it's really helped me understand my period significantly, right? Whether you're actually getting your period or you're just getting the symptoms of your period, understanding how your hormones are fluctuating and when you can push. And I was actually talking to Jackie this week. She was kind of having like as soon as I heard her talking about what she was experiencing, I looked at her tracker and I'm like, you're about to get your period, girl. I can feel it in everything that you're saying, right? So when we are in these 2 weeks, right, estrogen is thriving, testosterone is high. We have significant more energy. We have more drive. We feel better. We feel leaner, right? When those start to come down and progesterone starts to rise, in this week here, you see how your hormones are basically crashing to like absolute zero. Here, you're not going to have a lot of strength. All right. So again, if you want to use your deload there, you can, That just means your deload for every week or every block might be week 2, it might be week 3. As you get more advanced, it doesn't really matter because you'll understand like when you have to pull back. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. Also, for any of the new girls, we have a full lesson on the menstrual cycle. But basically, the way that I like to just imagine it for myself and kind of tailor my training to it and my deloads is that first follicular phase you saw when like all the pink little hormones are rising and it's all pretty. That is your spring. So that is when you're feeling your best. Then we go into summer, right? In the summer, you want to go out, you're feeling social, you're feeling good, you're doing all the things. And then in autumn, we start to come in a little bit. We kind of want to get a little bit cozy. That's your luteal phase. That's when you get hungry. That's when you don't really want to go out. That's when you also think that like life is crashing down and everything sucks. And like, why am I not being compliant this week? And like, we get very emotional, right? And then winter is when you're actually in your period. So for me, this little block right here, after my second day of my period, second or third, I am like the Hulk. Like I'm so strong. So that's why I like to deload right in between. All right. So again, this is something that you can learn from previous blocks. How can you understand what is the best week for you to deload? And of course, just like your nutrition, where you do your meal prep and it doesn't really work out because you tried something new and you're not going to think like, oh, that sucked. Like I can't do anything. Just like, oh, that didn't really work. Let me try better next month or next time. So number 2, now we're getting back into lifting heavier. The deload section was really long because I had to talk about the periods. Now, number 2, rep ranges. All right, so I love giving you rep ranges, and I really, really, really want you to take advantage of them. The reason that I program rep ranges rather than a specific rep is because I want you to fall somewhere in the bottom range of the rep ranges, right? So if on your program it says 10 to 15 reps of lateral raises and you're getting 15, go up and wait. If you're on the leg extension, that's always the one that I notice I have to go up and wait. And I'm like, fuck, I do 100 pounds and I do 15 reps and I'm like, damn, I have to go up and wait. But the second that you're getting to that top range of the rep range on your program, it's time to go up. We want to be falling on the leg extension 10 to 12. If you can get to 12 reps, you're pushing out 12. That's a good weight for you. Now, what if there is no rep ranges, right? Occasionally I will use this, especially like once we get into more advanced methods, I start changing up your rep ranges. I give you 7 reps, I give you 5 reps, I give you 3 reps. We want to think of the 2 rep rule. The 2 rep rule means having 2 reps left in the tank is okay, but anything past that, you're not going heavy enough. All right, so I encourage, even if you're using the rep ranges, keep going. If you're not sure if you're lifting heavy enough, again, this is always for you to become more self-sufficient. If you're not sure if you're lifting heavy enough, just say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to do as many reps as I can. If you end up getting 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, like sometimes I do tests like this and your rep range is like 6 to 10 and maybe you'll get 15. Like, whoa, way out of the 2 rep rule. So if you can do 2 reps past the number that is on your program, go up and wait, right? That is your cue. So that's why we use the rep ranges, because technically I'm giving you the bottom range that I want you to start, that I want you to hang out in. If you're passing the 2 rep rule, you're on the higher limit. Got a comment on here, hold on. If I wanted to go for the fuck it sets, would that set be included in our working set or just an extra set? Also, what if our first set just okay, cool. I'm gonna talk about what if you come 2 rep shorts. So you're like the fuck it sets, I very rarely do an extra set. I'll be honest. Usually like by set 3, by set 4, or even if I'm coming hot that week, I'll do it within your sets. I don't want you to do extra sets because that kind of goes back to what I was saying before. That means you didn't lift heavy enough from the beginning. Because if you're doing 5, 6 sets, because you just have more energy and you have more in you, how can next time you go into that block, you start much heavier where you don't even want to do 5, 6 sets? Today, if I would have had to do an extra set of split squats, I would have like wanted to just cry or of squats or of my good mornings, right? So I want you to push to the intensity that you don't even want to do an extra set. Let's push those bucket sets in the actual sets I have for you. And then I'll talk about the coming short in a second. Hold on, I'm hot. That's a great question, by the way. Number 3, warm-up sets. Again, how can we go into lifting heavy? Oh, by the way, look at these new shirts. Say Project Fit Chick on it. I'm working on getting it to you guys, but we're on a mission. Anyways, warm-ups. So we have a lesson on this, right? It's a full lesson on how you should optimize your lifts from the start. If you need this, just send me a message and I will send it to you. But if you guys scroll in our group calls, it's somewhere in there. It's probably, I'll find it much faster than you would. Just send me a message. So if you've ever noticed that your second, third, or fourth set is better than your first, that's because you're still kind of getting in the groove, right? So especially for your compound lifts, my second set of squats is always much better than my first. But a way that we want to get better at this, because you don't want the fourth set to be your best set where you're finally feeling up for it. And then, like I just mentioned before, where you're like, oh, should I do a fifth one? I feel like I could have done more, right? Or I could have done a sixth one. All right. So when you're doing your warm-up sets, before your first set, this is for the most part with the way that we program is going to be your squat, your bench press, your overhead press, your deadlift. Sometimes it's going to be your hip thrust. So for those compound lifts, I want you to do warm-up sets first. So if I give you 3, 4 sets, I'll give you 4 because that's usually what I program. If I give you 4 sets of squats, I want you to think of it as it's actually like 6. And the reason being, I want you to do one set. I'm going to give examples for like what I would do. This is going to be dependent on how much you can actually lift. So for example, if I'm going under the bar for a squat, I'm going to just do the bar and then I'm going to do 8 to 10 reps. If you're much stronger and you feel like that's super light, sometimes I put 10 pounds on and I do 8 to 10 reps, right? That's just a warm-up set. Can I get my body in the groove, right? Now, another set, can we put some more weight on it? So usually I'll put either 25 or 35 pound on each side. And I'm getting anywhere from like 4 to 6 reps. And then you can also do another set, which is maybe I'm getting a plate on there and then I'm doing 1 to 3 sets. I'm 1 to 3 reps at like 80, 90%. You don't have to do all 3, but I would recommend at least doing 2 warm-up sets. Now, this is dependent because if you can squat 90 pounds, it wouldn't make sense for you to like do so many warm-up sets because there's only so much that you can build up. For example, for my bench press, I'm not doing 3 warm-up sets because at that point, like I'm so close to the amount that I can actually bench, right? So if you're not lifting past like 135 for your first set, 1 to 2 warm-up sets or 2 warm-up sets is good. Once you start lifting 135 plus, anything higher than that, maybe you're going 150s or maybe you're at like close to 2 plates now. That's where we're looking at 3 warm-up sets. But you feel this out. At that point, like you're much more experienced and you're going to understand. But regardless, for your bench, for your overhead press, for your squat, for your deadlift, there should be some type of warm-up. Again, the lesson that I had just mentioned will dive much deeper into all of that. The deadlift, like how I kind of do those. Yeah, so this way with the warm-up sets, your working sets, you actually are just getting to work. So you've already warmed up. That first set, you're pushing, you're grinding, you're not getting into your groove anymore, right? And then the last way to understand if we are lifting heavy enough is self-analyzing. So what is actually heavy, right? Understanding, like, is this actually heavy? Am I being soft? Can I go heavier? Right? I call you guys, I say that to you guys, like, I think you can be a little soft. I think you can go heavier, right? Am I avoiding discomfort? Lunges, split squats, right? Those hurt. They kind of suck. My heart's like pumping, everything hurts. I'm holding on to these weights and my arms are tired. Am I avoiding discomfort? Is this actually heavy or do I not want to go up because this is actually like really hard, right? That's technically doesn't mean that you can't go lift heavier, right? Is my mind slash cardio giving out first? This is usually for lunges and split squats as well. We feel our heart pumping. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. But realistically, I can go heavier. It's just that, this is hard on my cardio. So paying attention to that. Another thing, if you're not making faces, if you feel like you don't need rest in between sets, you should go up. You should be wanting that rest. You should be loving that rest. You should be wanting more. If you feel like you want to keep going, if you're not huffing and puffing, all of these are ways to understand if you are lifting heavy enough. And I have a couple of examples here, right? These are just videos that I have, right? Another, like with that intensity, you should be struggling on these. You should start slowing down at some point. You'll see me kind of like huffing and puffing. You'll see that it's much harder for me to get out of this hole as the reps go on. This is how your sets should look. And I know I've had this conversation before where it's like, Nicole, I've seen like your split squats. I'm definitely not struggling as much. As soon as you get your stability, it should, like after the set, you should be very, very tired. I have another example. Oops, where is it? Here, similar to the bench press, right? So same thing at the beginning, reps are pretty good, right? They're pretty swift, but once we get to the end, you should see the shakes. You should be struggling. And I think I have one more. This is a stiff leg deadlift. It's kind of dramatic, but also not really. When we're doing certain exercises, it should burn. It should like significantly burn. All right, so these are just kind of visual examples. If you're finding that you're just like looking super pretty, like we all know you're pretty, but we don't want you looking pretty during your workouts. Again, for all of this, for like lifting heavy and intensity, obviously, if you're on your period, if you're on your deload, it's not going to look like that. So just remember, when you're on your luteal phase and you feel like, oh my gosh, I should be lifting heavier, I should be going harder, girl, it's fine. Like you're about to get your period. So that's completely different. I just want you to start understanding your body more. Now, if you've ever questioned, should I go up? The answer is most likely yes. And I want you to start proving to yourself that you can do that weight, that you are stronger than you thought, that you can do hard things, and you're a badass, strong ass fit chick. Okay. Now, the last thing, that last one was last one, but this will go back into the question. Failing is okay. If you do a bench, and this happened a bunch this weekend, like we try 35 pounds and you do it and you're going for the bench and you're like, and then it doesn't, you just drop them. That's okay, right? Failing is okay. Just make sure that you're doing that safely. With your squat, maybe we have bars. In the worst case scenario, what's going to happen, I know sometimes you guys don't have spotters and you get nervous and you don't want to fail on your squat. I would say the worst case scenario is you're just not going to hit your rep target. So to answer your question from before, if my target on a squat was to hit 7 reps, if I don't have a spotter, by rep 5, you'll know if you're going to get to 7. So if anything, just put it back. If you're like, damn, I think I can do that weight, and like, fuck it, I just want to try it, put it on. Worst comes to worst, do your 5th rep. You're like, that didn't feel good. Let's rack it. And you just work up to it. Also realizing if it didn't feel so good. And then how I just mentioned, just tossing them to the side. Now, these are another examples of lifting to failure. So for example, for the hip thrust, start pushing yourself to the point where there might be that fuck it set where you aren't able to fully lock out, right? It's not going to happen all the time where we're completely lifting to failure, but we should get to that point where maybe, I didn't lock out. Okay, that's okay, because that's part of learning. All right, another example is using these safety bars. I've used them many, many times before. So you'll see an example here. I was going for this PR for like 3 weeks and I just wasn't having it. But either way, when you're getting out of that hole, if you aren't able to actually do it, worst comes to worst, make sure that they're lined up perfectly and you just drop it and you'll land there. You see how I was only moving like this much? Like I only really dropped, right? Same on the back squat. A lot of you aren't at that point, but if you're at the point where you might fail a back squat, I will teach you how you can do it. And then the deadlift is super easy. I love failing on a deadlift because worst comes to worst, you just can't pick it up. And you go right here and you're just like, no, that didn't work. Okay. So again, this all goes into learning how much is too much, how much is not enough. And then we find that perfect balance. All right. Things that may get in the way. We spoke about the spot. If you're not sure if your form is good enough, Nicole actually sent me a video I think like 20 minutes ago of her squat. She's like, hey, I hit a PR. How's my form? All right. If you're not sure, if you go for those fuck it sets and you're just not sure if you're lifting heavy enough, send the video, right? Send the video if you're not sure if it's enough. Hey, Nicole, do you think I should go up? I have had those conversations so many times with you. Send the video. I'll know in like the first couple of reps if you are lifting heavy enough. And I will also know if your form is good enough for you hitting a PR, right? So always send a video. Make sure that you are not avoiding discomfort. Now, I have some homework for you, and these are always our favorite homeworks. So in this body transformation journey, the process, right, the body progress you achieve will pour into your confidence, right? But the things that you did to get there is going to pour much more. Right? I will use today Christine as an example. Christine always tells me her wins in life. Hey, Nicole, like, I got a new job. I'm so much more confident to like put myself into these positions. She just got a car the other day. I would be terrified also going to the car dealership. I don't know anything about cars, but just having the confidence in other areas to just go for it, to talk in meetings, to stand up, to put some certain clothes on. That happens because you go to the gym and you prove yourself right, that you are strong enough to do those things. And I fucking love when you all share all of those stories. Tell me all of the things. Tell me that you asked a question in the meeting that maybe you wouldn't have spoken up before. And I absolutely love that. All right. So your homework. Number one, I want you to go for the fuck it sets. It doesn't have to be in a major lift. I mean, it can. It could be in a squat. It could be in a deadlift. It could be in a hip thrust. It could be in a lat pull down, realistically. Preferably not like a curl, but maybe. But it could be in a lat pull down. It could be a row. I want you to just like, fuck it. I'm just going to go a little bit heavier and see how that turns out, right? Push heavier, right? Than maybe you thought you could, or even maybe something that you were thinking about. I want you to take a video and I want you to post it in our group. It doesn't have to be like the most extravagant video. Again, you've probably seen all the videos that we post in there. We don't care what you look like. We just care that you're lifting like a badass. Okay. So go for the fuck it sets, post the video if you can, push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I know that's not the easiest thing. And remember, forever, that food is love. And especially today, strength is power. Do we have any questions? Need some water. Ooh, I'm excited for the fuck it sets. I actually don't know what I'm gonna do. Oh, you know what I should have done? Maybe I'll do it next week. Today I was thinking about 55s on my split squat, but I didn't go for it. So it's in my mind. Any questions? Any questions? Even if it's unrelated to today. And if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself. While that is going, last thing, in the chat, can you comment an exercise that we feel that you can just say, fuck it, I'm just going to go a little bit heavier? What is an exercise that, fuck it, I'm just going to go a little bit heavier that you feel that you can do this week? What is it for me? I've actually been thinking about my overhead press. I'm thinking of what exercises I have left. I think it's going to be my overhead press. I've been thinking about it on one of my sets. I don't know if I'm quite there, but I might. I want to say squats. I have a new belt. Okay. And I got to try it out. Love that. Nice. Maria and Anna both got a belt. The strongest squatters on our team just got a belt, so the bar has been raised. Sadia said deadlift. Yes, let's go. Carla hit a fucking set today by mistake. I was cracking up because I can totally picture that. And I think it's so funny when you hit a squat by mistake or like a PR by mistake that you're like, fuck, why was that so heavy? And you put it down and you look at your phone, and you're like, oh shit. But it worked out. Maybe leg press, does that count? Hey, anything can count. A lat pull down, literally anything can count for sure. The leg press is my arch nemesis. Love it, love it. Okay, so we are looking for fuck it videos. We just want to see it, record it. Again, it could even be like a lat pull down where you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go heavier. Do I have lat pull downs this week? I'm in the mood for a lat pull down. All right, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions on today, questions being, hey, my particular situation, how much should I be warming up? Or for deloads, should I do it on week one? Should I do it during my period? I'm not sure how to go about that. Like, I know today was a little bit broad because for everybody on here, we are all extremely different. I will talk about my journey. It changes all the time. I always used to deload week one. Always. It recently just changed this year that I deload right before my period. And it's been hard for me to time out and to like really perfect that. And I know a bunch of like other people do different things. So yeah, if you have anything that you have questions on, feel free to shoot me a DM. And I will let you guys go. Wish me luck. I gotta wake up at 2 in the morning because I gotta take my parents to the airport. Love you guys. Bye.